Either one of us is 100%.
All right, we'll get started. It's like 12:01, which I know is still early for realtor time, but and I know I'm the worst offender on that too. So, who has not signed in yet?
What are your steps?
All right, so this amazing lunch was provided by National Property Inspections.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. And it's good because I was like, when it's not like those rolled up sandwiches that are like been rolled up a week ago. It's like croissant sandwiches, so it's good. So, we'll let you go ahead and tell us all the goodies, and then I have questions.
Sure.
So,
My name is Scott Buckley with National Property Inspections. We like to think of ourselves as a one-stop shop because we've got 7 guys that can get to your inspection quickly. We offer a whole bunch of little free little programs that we give away. It's over $25,000 in warranties. A lot of it is our structural warranty, which is actually free this year. It's $25 grand. It pays out in increments of $6,000 or $5,000 with 5 claims in aggregate. Anyway, these are all to help you guys get your clients into their home, help them. The little bumps in the road, these little programs will help smooth things out and make it better for them, give them a better experience. We also do mold testing, radon testing. We are heading into the summer and it's getting more humid and everything, so we do offer mold testing, radon, and I highly recommend a sewer scan. I had my own little experience with that when I did not, before I was an inspector, I didn't get it done. Tree roots grew in and one day it just backed up the downstairs toilet overflow, which was not fun. Not fun at all. And I ended up spending between $500 and $1,000. I would rather have spent the $295 for the sewer scan than, even if it was less, I didn't want to deal with the sewage water. So I have to clean up that. So we get that, we can help you out with that.
oh yeah, I want to make sure this is off. She likes to record me, so I don't even know if it is recording or not. Oh, actually, it's recording. Oh yeah, it is recording. Well, let's look at that one more time. Yeah, it is recording. Good.
These little booklets I gave y'all, they're buy yourself guide to the home inspection process. If you want to include these in a kit to give out to prospective clients, I'd be happy to supply you with as many as you need. Just call our office number on the front or on the card and just ask for these booklets and we'll bring them out to you. Okay? It's a little Q&A about the home inspection process. So it's a little education tool. You can help your clients understand, the buying process, or at least the inspection side of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So today's topic is about keeping our transactions together. And obviously one of the biggest thing in our transactions is the inspection. And how would, by show of hands, how many would say that that's kind of always been one of the more tension moments in a transaction?
Stressing concerns and all.
One of the more stressing moments. So what would you advise us as realtors on how to navigate through inspections and inspection reports and so forth?
I would get to know your inspector that actually does the work. We, not just NPI, but I know there are other great companies, vendors at this office as well. We would like to be able to help you guys, and what we do is we do a walkthrough with the client to go over everything. Maybe not everything in the report, but the highlight, the major stuff. And sometimes we get questions about, well, how is this going to affect me? And we can kind of talk them off that ledge. Because some things, like if you have an electrical outlet that's gone bad, it's probably just a service call for an electrician to come out. But I mean, I could swap out an electrical outlet, cut the breaker. So some things the report's going to have everything that's just a defect. Is it functioning? No, then it's a defect. If it's marginal, it's functioning, but it's beyond its life expectancy. And then acceptable is it's functioning properly. So it's kind of cut and dry in the reporting, but sometimes people can look at all that language and get overwhelmed. And that's why we do the walkthrough, to kind of talk them off that ledge. Like, no, it's not as bad as you think. I know a lot of kids, millennials, I think they comprise the biggest buyers of the homes right now. the joke was they're living with their mom and dad, or they've been renting and they haven't had to take care of something on their own. That's why I do like, every inspector is now offering these things, and we offer the most because we want to help these clients get through those little speed bumps. But it is just keeping that open communication, and once they understand the magnitude of certain defects, then they're like, okay, that's not a big deal. So, yeah. And please, when we do an inspection, we give the client our card, which is our cell phone. Have them call us. Or if you're having any trouble, please call us. Or if you're aware of something that you looked at the home before we even get there, please send us a text or say, hey, I saw this, would you pay attention to this? And that way we can make sure we get it and address it, and then give that client some comfort. Because in my book, there are a lot of bad stuff out there. Anything can be fixed. We just got to determine how much it's going to cost to get it fixed, and then who's going to fix it. And if if the seller's willing to negotiate, there's no reason why the worst house in Atlanta can't be bought and sold. So, yeah.
True. I would agree, because I always feel like when I can actually get the inspector to explain stuff to me, more importantly explain it to my client, it takes this stress down a little bit more.
And sometimes you might have an out-of-town client, they get our report. If they're freaking out, in Chicago because they're moving south, you have them call us, and we can follow up and talk to them about what we found. And basically, they want the major stuff, dealt with the seller. The minor stuff, you don't want to you could kill the deal if the buyer is nitpicking every single item. So, we'll help them realize, hey, you got to have a home, you're going to have maintenance issues. Replacing an electrical switch is no big deal compared to the HVAC system's going bad. Or you've got knob and tube wiring, which needs a massive amount of money to replace that. So, yeah.
Okay. Any other tips you would give us before we get going on our... I know I'm putting you completely on the
that's
spot.
all right.
And you're right, yeah.
I just want to say this about mold. It takes 24 to 48 hours for mold to start growing once you've got a leak, and you've got to have food and temperature and humidity. But low-pitched roofs very, it's not a tall attic. They're more likely to get mold because the turnover of air is not as great as in a bigger attic. So just be aware that if you're shopping a home with a client and it's got a low-pitched roof, it's great for us to walk on, but it can be a kind of a trap because the air flow isn't as great, so it can develop mold. Yeah.
Yes, Scott. So do you have recommended people to do the work that you find is defective?
Yes, we do have a vendor list that we like. I highly recommend Frederick Weston of Green Home Solutions. I think they're a preferred vendor here also.
They are.
And they do a bang up job. And I would trust him. In fact, I might need him on my own home because I just discovered a water leak I did not know about. It was behind the wall. So, yeah. But they can come in there. What they do, it's non-traditional. They have a cocktail of enzymes they use to kill the mold, and it's structured as it's comprised of 3 layers. Carbohydrate, fatty tissue, and the inner core is protein. We react to the protein, so unless you get rid of that, you're not getting rid of the problem. So clean it up. We do that third-party mold test. Frederick will set that up for you. They get a third party to test after the work they've done. But if you use Frederick or anybody else, get a third party to come in and test it to make sure the work was done properly. Okay? Yes.
Are you doing the steeper roofs like a 10-10 or a 10-12?
For
12 to walk the roof?
Some of our, depends upon the day. If it's a rain, like the rain we got, probably not. But every guy just does it based on how they feel. Like I had some back issues and shoulder issues the other day. I was not going to get up on any roof just because I knew it wouldn't be safe for me. And most home inspectors, in fact, all the ones I know, we don't carry the harnessing equipment that the roofing contractors do. So if we can't get on the roof, we'll at least look at it, sometimes use a drone. Then if not, we can't walk on the roof, we'll pay particular attention in the attic. Because if the decking is squishy, you can at least get to the back side of it and feel it, or use a moisture meter on it to test it. to see, if there's anything going on. One thing you do have to be wary of is if the roof is too steep, those little granules, your feet can wear them out, and they protect the shingle from the UV rays of the sun. So we get rid of that stuff, and I've seen paths on roofs even before I got on it where I could tell people had walked. So it's you got to be careful. But yeah. So if we can walk on it, we will. But you got to take into consideration our own safety and the weather, and are we going to do more damage to the roof than we find? So yeah. I'm sorry, it just varies. That's what I guess I should have said.
Fair answer. Fair answer. Other questions? So if you've not gotten his material, I guess raise your hand, and then if you have not signed in, we're going to start passing this around again. So.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for lunch.
Just need a little personal help because my daughter's getting married in July. I think I've told you that before. More inspections and better the wedding, so.
She should have been here.
Yeah, she should. You should show us a picture. All right, so I have handouts as well because, as anyone who knows me, the more, the cheesier I can make something and the better the visual, usually, that's what I like to do. So, but our clients remember my cheesiness, so it works, and that's why I keep it up. So I'm just going to pass this around. We're going to talk about the life cycle. Today's topic is about keeping transactions together. So let's talk about the life cycle of a transaction then. And I technically always call it a transaction. I don't like calling it a deal. It feels like a used car salesman when I say the word deal. If you think about it, it is a transaction. It is transferring one asset, a large property, to someone else. There's a whole process to it, and it is the biggest thing going on usually in somebody's life at that moment. So it's not a deal. A deal is what I find at, I don't know, Marshalls. I found a deal at Marshalls. Yeah. So anyway, so let's kind of go over this real quick, and then we're going to talk about some specifics, and then I will want to hear real life situations going on, so we can all collaborate and resolve these, make us all better. And if you have not gotten my clock, see, I just chose a clock. You could have chosen anything I wanted, but I'm choosing a clock. If anyone's not gotten one, I'll make sure you got plenty. Okay. So let's talk about the first step of any, we'll start with number one. Of any transaction, the first thing is what?
Contract.
Okay, we'll start from the very, very, very beginning.
Meeting someone.
I heard something.
The lead.
Lead. Who else was saying? It's either you generate or you capture the lead, right? It all starts with the lead, right? So the very next thing, typically, this is buyer or seller. The second thing of any transaction is you have your consultation.
What that first one from number one was his.
And I know this marker is not great and my handwriting's bad. You either generated the lead or you captured a lead. And there's kind of the same, but also kind of different. So then you have your consultation, whether it's a buyer's consultation, whether it's a listing consultation. And what's our end goal at the end of the consultation?
Agreement signed.
Agreement signed, that's right. Signed agreement. Maybe I need a different marker. Let's see if they have one. Let's try this one. Oh, much better. Signed agreement. Thank you, Michael. All right, so once we all have signed agreements, whether it's buyer or the seller, what is our next step? Let's start with just let's start with buyers for a minute.
Pre-approval.
That's true. That's okay.
Or search.
You're right.
Searching.
Online search.
You're online searching. And what else?
Show it.
And then you show. And then if it's a listing, what is like the next steps after you get this agreement?
Pictures, staging.
So you work on staging, probably maybe make some repairs prior, and then obviously start your pictures, your marketing. So this stage is all about the house, right? And all these little details is kind of like if I were to put like minutes underneath. So, you know, like that would be, you know, like get the pre-approval, making sure you do that research into the right homes, start showing them the homes, making sure they understand the areas. If this was a buyer, if this was a seller, you would have done the comps, you would have priced it right, you would have explained the right pricing, you would have also, you know, started if you had to make repairs, do anything that would make it look good to be on the market, get your photos, so forth. And so now we've been focusing on the house part of it. And so once we got that, what is our goal after we kind of go through those steps?
Contract.
And a contract. So I'm going to kind of break it up again. You're under contract. This is where we like, depends what side you're on, you make or receive an offer. This is where you negotiate. And then eventually you go binding, right? So then what happens in number 6? Once you're a binding contract.
Due diligence.
Inspection, due diligence.
Due diligence, right. So this is the DD, this is your inspections. Typically, now it doesn't always have to be quite in this order, but after the inspections, what's the next, usually life cycle of the, part of the life cycle of the transaction?
Appraisal. Loan
Well,
processing.
part of that would be requesting inspections, that would be, again, I'm gonna write this because we actually say this. It's another negotiation, right?
Yeah.
So what happens after typically inspections, right?
Just concerns.
Amendment to address concern.
Okay, we're putting there negotiation. Let's say we got past due diligence.
Appraisal.
Appraisal, that's right.
I'll tell you.
I know it's not rocket science and you all do this every day and I'm asking you to like, kind of like, when you, sometimes being asked what you do every day, it's like, oh, what's the word for that, you know? But I know you all do it. So typically after the appraisal comes in, let's just say this is the perfect transaction. And so it came in well, okay? If it's not the perfect transaction, guess what happens during appraisal time? Negotiations again, right? All right. So let's just say everything's going well. What's, you know, these next couple of steps, you can go either or. Like they can happen. So I'm just going to kind of go with how I wrote it, but financing is one of them. I have that more in mind, but what typically you start to do on like the next
Title
step?
search?
Put your feet up.
Put your feet up.
Time to
Wow.
wait closing.
My goodness, I wish that was true.
You said it's a perfect transaction, appraisal. What else
So
is
perfect
it?
transaction still usually has somewhat repairs to do, right? Probably still have like either you need to go verify the repairs. Maybe you have some special steps like order that home warranty, or maybe they want that termite letter. So I'm just gonna call it like, this is like we're gonna complete or verify repairs, special steps, stuff that you have to do to keep the contract like going that you're, you know, required to do. This one, Katie, you were saying it?
Financing?
Financing. What ultimately you want to see happen with financing?
Clear
Clear to close, right?
That's when you put your feet up.
Really? Okay.
Still no.
Yeah, no, we're still worrying about it going through.
Loan approval. You want that clear to close. Once you get the clear to close, what do you get next?
Schedule a walkthrough?
That's true. That's what I'm saying. Like these could be interchangeable because they're probably happening simultaneously. So if you're on the sell side, you're going to complete the repairs. If you're on the buy side, you're going to verify the repairs are completed and done properly. So you're going to verify, obviously, special steps are being performed. You know, so you're going to verify when they say leave the fridge that by the time you walk through, they actually left the fridge. They move it out, right?
And the one that was there.
And it's the one that's there.
Right.
Good point.
This is fire stopping time right here.
So, all right, so, but let's just say we got the clear to close, yay, we got clear to close. What are they required
CD.
for that? CD, you're right. You get the CD, you get the settlement statement. Once you get that, we got 3 days, that goes out, and then what do we do next?
Walkthrough. Closing.
You would walk through, but closing, right? This is where everything starts to transfer. Like you transfer keys, right? Make sure utilities are going on and off at the right time. That water application, especially for DeKalb County, even City of Atlanta, truthfully. I mean, one time I had to literally send a DeKalb water application 3 times to them, and they still shut it off. Yeah.
Rude.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're not that great, are they?
But what happens at 12, Kelly?
So what happens at 12?
Celebration.
Yes, possibly.
Referrals.
Celebration,
Ask for
possibly.
referral?
Cash the check.
Cash the check. But for the client experience, what is the last,
Oh, move in.
possibly? But what's our goal?
Referral.
Referrals, you're right. I'm gonna call it this though. I'm gonna call it this. Hopefully you created a raving fan. And what do raving fans do?
Refer
That's right.
you.
So guess why this is a cycle? Because that's how you captured another lead. It's into your referral. And then what else would a good raving fan do?
Review.
Write a review.
Reviews. Hopefully that helped generate another lead. What else would they do?
Use you again.
Repeat, absolutely.
I need a system for doing reviews. I've never had anyone do a review.
Okay, great. That is great. Whoever said that, I can see. Oh, good. Okay, good. We're gonna talk about it. So here, then what you would do is then you would start to put on their 3-3 touch plan. You could start putting into you can develop a system for cultivating, whether it's reviews, etc. So this is we don't think of the cycle ending until we have a raving fan. Because that's ultimately, we want them to have their own home, and if you get the home you want or you sell the home you want, that and you do it well throughout the whole time, we should have what? Raving fans, right?
Yes.
So while this seems extremely elementary to go through this like this, but truly successful agents actually start to measure themselves at each step of the way. So I am going to ask you to do this because we're going to talk about keeping the transaction together at this session, but what we're also going to do is based on how y'all respond, that's our next topic for June. So you can take that beautiful little sheet of paper that I passed out and just kind of, write it down. You can put number 10 as what is the most challenging, stressful moment in your transactions. Understanding that a life cycle of a transaction begins with the lead, when the lead comes in. And you have to think of it that way because a lead measures their experience from the moment they say hello to you. They don't measure it when you consultation is their second impression. Getting this, showing houses is a third impression. Their first impression to you is the moment they come to you, whether you called them first or they called you. So that's why this is a life cycle of a transaction. It begins the first time you ever spoke to somebody. So if y'all can humor me for a moment, just write down maybe number 10 is the most challenging, stressful moment that's in a typical transaction. Don't think of the one weird one. Maybe not the one super easy one where you showed one house, they wrote the offer, and there was perfectly great homes and no repairs. Think of your overall typical. And if you can write 10 being the worst, 1 being the easiest, I'll give you 2 minutes? Is that probably pretty simple? Just number it. Just probably sit there going, based on how you typically experience in your day-to-day business, what brings you the most stress? What do you tend to find the most challenging? 10 being the most, 1 being the least. And if you need my sheets of paper, you need some clocks. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Here's my little, I told him if it's not cheesy, I wouldn't be doing it. is, and it works.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. And my handwriting is terrible, so if you need me to interpret. Get you to sign in, we'll get them on it too. And it, seriously, if y'all need me to tell you what my handwriting actually says, just ask me. And then for anybody who's, if they walked in late, you can kind of explain, we've taken the viewpoint of both, whether you're working the buyer or working the seller. Like this one, if it's a buyer, to be research, show homes. You're the seller. It's prep the listing. Maybe repairs, staging, photography, marketing. I'm sorry, ask again?
5 and 6.
5 is like, once you've done 4, you identify the home, or you got the home ready, and it's on the market. Your next goal is to get it under contract. So like if I were to put the minute size like I had mentioned, that would be like you may receive the offer, you negotiate it, and then you finally go binding.
What's 6?
So
I just can't
6?
see it, yeah.
Okay, 6 is the due diligence period's next, which is your inspections, which includes negotiating for repairs.
So we'll rewrite down each one on this 1 through, okay.
So just, I'll give another minute. So I just want to kind of get a survey of what we find the most challenging, stressful in the moment of the transaction.
Inspection. Oh.
That's okay. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. I mean, it's probably going to be pretty much the same for most of us.
That's one of mine. Alright, I agree.
I don't think it's just more setting expectations.
What's it say on number 11 under closing? Transfer?
Transfer items like your keys, your garage door opener, the utilities. If you have any kind of warrant, anything, just transfer.
Okay.
And the transaction does not finish until you know you have a raving fan, right? Because why go through like all this? This is stressful if you don't get in the end a raving fan, right? Which means they're satisfied. You got them the right home and you sold the right home. All right, for fun, like by show of hands, like what's the easiest?
Closing.
Closing, right? What else should be the easiest? The least stressful moment of the transaction.
Financing, if you have a good lender, the financing should be easy, so.
The seat, you are absolutely correct. Jenna, you are exactly what I was been thinking. The whole thing is like now we can identify if this is ever stressful, it's either a vendor issue, means you don't have good vendors, or it's a system issue. So like you're right, CD, making sure that those numbers are right and that settlement statement's right. That's having a great lender like Supreme or good attorney like Humanity and making sure it's done. Same thing with the loan. Like that is like if this becomes a stressful point in your transaction, it's probably not you, it's probably the vendor issue. And if it is a And there's ways, like how many people have had this be stressful?
Just like once.
When your buyer insists on
Yeah.
using their lender.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that. What's some, because that actually did, if I was representing the seller and the buyer, you know, pick a lender, let me just say it's Bank of America. And,
Yes, yeah.
and it was a horrible experience.
Did you have an appraisal issue?
Yep.
I don't
This is
know.
just right here, remember, like, we're just go to that sale.
Oh.
But like, what do you, like, let's put some scripts.
So,
Drew.
you know, a big one is when you're dealing with condos,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm kind of working through. I mean, we're coming out okay, but we had a Navy Federal loan. It was Navy Federal, who's been around, and you know, you love for people to use VA when they can, but they wanted to communicate their way, and the condo association was Heritage, and Heritage has a very specific way that you have to order their condo letters and all that, and of course you got to pay through the nose to get it.
Yep.
And so Navy Federal was doing one thing, and Heritage was sending back another, and never the two were communicating, and so it was kind of had a do or die moment on this, and we, you know, it took a lot of pushing to get them to finally communicate the way that, and I'm representing the seller in this, so
Right.
you know, I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be handling this, you were just sending emails, throwing it over the wall.
Yeah. Which actually that happened with me last week as well. So like, how do we resolve that? So that obviously the issue is, you know, first of all, we all understand the HOAs, most of them, not all of them, but you know, they have their systems and they don't change from them. You know, and some are really great to work with, some are you know. But like, how do we, when that situation happens, like, how can we resolve it to keep?
Well, it's just a matter of pushing it through. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no substitute for, I would say, making them communicate, but you got to kind of force them to communicate and spoon feed it. You know.
Always they have to keep poking them.
It's true. Unfortunately, it becomes, because we ultimately want raving fans and we want it to close. Like, even if it's not your fault, when it doesn't close on time, guess who still like
So it's
gets a,
it'd
like,
be a big problem for my seller if
Yeah.
she didn't close on time.
yeah. So then obviously that gets stressful, but it's a good vendor way to do it. Dory.
So do you handle that at the beginning, making sure they're using a lender that's going to get them to the closing table?
That sounds like a very great solution.
That's a great. We have those, Chris. However, people don't listen.
Okay, so Andy, how do you make them listen? Because we all have horror stories.
Right, which we do give them the stories. I've had past years I had a client that was going to use my preferred lender, and then they got a better rate with Bank of America, and decided to go with Bank of America because it was a
Did
numbers
they
thing.
talk to your lender?
They did. Now they compared with each other, and Bank of America had a better rate. However,
And
when
you
they-
explain to them it's not always the rate, you have to look at the whole package?
Which they did,
Will
which
it
I
get,
did.
will it get closed on time?
Which it did. We went through all that, and we ended up 2 weeks before closing had to switch to another preferred lender because Bank of America didn't drop the ball and they raised the whatever promises they had, and 2, the appraisal came in $60,000 under the contract price. So yeah, I mean, it's having those conversations, explaining it, but then they have to listen to you, and you know, having that conversation from the beginning, I totally believe.
Would you say that getting a letter from them explaining what happened that you could put in your listing packet would be impactful to people that are thinking of doing the same thing?
I would agree, yeah. Yeah.
Go back
I mean,
and ask them for a letter.
that's one of those, you always have that client, you're like, can you just look at every closing or every price consultation and repeat what we just went through?
Yeah, Jenna.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I always send like 2 preferred lenders, and at the end of the day, people talk to them, and usually they'll win them over. But you know, sometimes you have parents involved that say go with. So I just had one that was like, spoke to our preferred lender, got approved, but at the end of the day, like a week later, wanted to go with Chase. And so, thank God, it ended up closing, and everything was fine. But like on the front end, I'm just like, are you sure you want to go with Chase? Like, you know, you can go with whoever you want to go with, but you know, I've just heard horror stories from Chase that they don't close on time or things fall through the cracks. And like, you know, I feel like you can only push to a certain extent. At the end of the day, they're going to go with who they want to go with. But when that did happen with Chase, I literally phoned the guy like every day, and And I was like, I'm sorry, it's nothing to do with
That's
you.
probably why it closed on time, because
What?
you kept them in the lane.
I did close. Well, oh, I see what you're saying. But yeah, so I just called them like every day, and I was like, it's nothing against you. I've just heard stories with Chase, like, so I just like kept on it because I was like nervous that it wouldn't close. But at the end of the transaction, when it did, I was like, see, I told you at the beginning. I hope you proved me wrong with using Chase, and you did. So, but yeah. Anyways, I just feel like at the end of the day, you can't. I mean, yeah.
Can I just piggyback off what you're saying, Jenna? So, because I actually think it's good to let your clients know that you work every single day to get Chase on board.
You bet.
Like, I would never give Chase credit for that. Because what the client sees when you're at, what do we say should be the easiest part of the transaction? Right here? Should be the most pleasant point of the transaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except that you're packing and you have to put a moving truck and that's stressful too. But this is an exciting moment. Like, all they see on the settlement statement is you made what? $10,000 and blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Because what's perception? Sometimes.
Reality.
That all we do is we just.
We're just the keys to get in the door.
Yeah, we just look at pretty houses, three.
Yeah, that's
Make a big lot of money. So, is there anything wrong with telling your client, hey, by the way, because I care about you closing on time, because like maybe you're selling, they have to close in order to buy next or blah, blah, blah. I just want to let you know that I was so diligent on this because I wanted it to close so much on you that I was talking to Chase almost every single day. Because it wasn't my best experiences in the past with Chase, so therefore I wanted to prevent it ever happening to you. So I'm so glad it worked out, but or if you don't tell them there, like closing, I wouldn't tell them there, because closings were like, yeah, congrats, balloons, flowers, champagne bottles. I would be telling them all in this process. Going, hey, by the way, I'm talking to Chase today. Guess what? Tomorrow when I give you an update, guess what? I touched base with Chase today. The next day I give an update, guess what? I touched base with Chase today. Every single, or whatever you set up as your checking in, schedule that's weekly, daily, so forth. Hey, by the way, I talked to Chase on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Like, Hannah.
I just wanted to know if it's a true, like, I just had a Navy Federal that came in like 15,000 under the appraisal, and I wanted to know, is there certain lenders that notoriously always are conservative and underappraise, or is that a true statement, or is that just
VA is conservative because it's not just financing a lot often.
So anytime that there's less down, you think they're going to be more conservative?
And sometimes, and this would be great, we could always get Supreme to speak on this specifically, but from my experiences, and everyone can chime in, I actually found, we're going to jump to here, appraisal, down number 7, I feel like who gets scrutinized the most. They become very cautious and conservative on their appraisals. So we're going to hit that point in a minute. But like credit unions, because it's owned by the members, depositors are the, in a sense, a owner of the credit union. So it's like if they have a lot of foreclosures going under, it's not like they're pumped up by like big investors on Wall Street. It's like, so they can be conservative, they can be right on. And then I actually do think like, like it's the ridiculously, I'm detailed oriented, but it's the ridiculously anal details, or I feel like big banks, because they were like bullseye. But I would say, but anyway, so let's go on. Like someone else, Brandon, didn't you have your hand on about this?
Something in regard to the lender is, this is interesting, and from my experience is knowing how the lender gets paid is an easy, logical way to have a conversation. Because like a Navy Federal, they work hourly, so they have no incentive to close on time. And I had that experience. They're gonna get paid either way. So if you have a client that's going with someone and you know that they're getting paid hourly, that's a logical way to explain to them that this might be a problem.
So do you think you can explain that to a client, that someone who's like clocks in, clocks out?
I did, and it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's.
So is that possibly some great scripts to go, why you need to work with some really stellar vendors versus your Bank of America? And you know what? Guess where the processors are? Tampa! Oh, that's not great, because that means I can really get to them quickly, right? So
I love it when they're on the West Coast.
The underwriters in the West Coast, it's nice. The wire can still be sent, and it still can close at like 5 o'clock at night, but But,
I will say though, if you like now with like Chase, if I have someone that wants to go Chase, like maybe I keep this guy in my back pocket because I know that lender can close it.
Yeah,
so if they
that's a
have
great
to go,
solution.
we got like a offer on our listing, and they wanted to go with Wells Fargo, and I was like, the only way you can go with Wells Fargo is if you use this guy we know, and they were fine with that because they had to use Wells Fargo. So I feel like that's helpful.
and I agree with you because you can have a really great loan officer at a really bad company.
Yes.
It just means their work life is miserable. Because instead of you calling the processor every day, a really great loan officer would be calling the processor every day. Which is, they chose to work at that bad company, then that should be their job. So, Brandon.
In regards to the big banks, I usually always explain to people that the problem is they have so many checks and balances. It's not fully that lender's fault all the time, it's that they're so scrutinized. And people usually understand that because they're so large, is that it has to go to X person to the next person to the next person. There's no person that can just push it through always.
Or I would probably say the volume is so great that you're just another number.
Yeah, your number in line, that's what I tell
And then I
them.
You're just a
usually
number in line.
talk about the fact that they don't do lending, they just do it because they already have you in their pocket.
Correct.
So like it's
And they wanna-
something
guess
they
what else
can
they wanna
make
do?
money.
Sell all their
Yeah.
services to you.
Right.
Wow.
Thank you.
So, Katie, we'll change our topics after this one. Katie.
So my big red flag is if people want to go with a lender and I see on the pre-approval letter or in their email that they only offer an office number and not a cell phone number, that's when I'm like, am I even going to be able to reach you after 5 or on weekends? So my people really wanted to go with George's own. It's because his dad wanted him to, and when we weren't getting great communication, we actually switched to my lender while we were under contract and still got it appraised and everything in the original time. And so they will now never go back to having just something that their parents said, go with them. They've opened their eyes.
Yeah.
But if I don't see a cell phone number and if I can't reach you, I'm like,
So what happens if you're the seller and you receive an offer of the pre-approval letter, and obviously it's not a preferred lender of yours? What should you do? Call them. Call them. Before you what?
accept it.
Accept it, yeah. Because if not, it could be a contingent, it could be a negotiated item that they have to speak with your preferred lender, right? And then, do you think if you send a lot of volume to your preferred lender, do you think they could work on some of those? I'm not wanting to try to cut someone's head, but if it's like once in a while to satisfy a client, a thought. Talking about HOAs. Because they can be.
Well, that and the management company that runs the HOA, that's been the biggest hiccup is the companies are terrible. It's always when someone's on maternity leave or on vacation. And every person you talk to, it's like, really? Does nobody work here?
So if let's talk about this. If you're representing the seller and you have an HOA, whether it's a condo, townhouse, or single family home HOA, when's the best time to get in touch with the HOA?
Before you list it.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know. Lanisha knows.
But what are you asking for? What are you touching base with before?
Confirming fees, confirming the assessment.
Yeah.
Just, when you fill out the form, though. Of course, you're gonna fill out that form before.
But the sellers fill that out and they don't always know, because I had a seller who didn't know that there was an assessment and that it had already been, and now it's kind of been a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know which one, Jenna.
Yeah. Exactly. So should that be once you get the signed agreement, could that be, if it's a listing, contact HOA and reach out and then CC your client on the email or have your client CC you on the email? Maybe they can do a screenshot of that community association form that says break down the fees, saying, hey, can you help us answer these questions? Or maybe you have it typed out nicely. So there's no confusion on how to fill that out. And then maybe perhaps ask them questions of like, do you have the HOA documents? Can you just go ahead and send it to me now? Or how do you like to get your closing questionnaire? So when you get right here, the offer, you call that loan officer, by the way, if you want that condo questionnaire completed, you need to send it to this homewise.com or something, and possibly.
Have we considered creating our own document that we would add in, because even the association disclosure that's in there now, really, it seems like they're always coming up with a new name for something.
Yeah.
And it's not in there, so your client doesn't know to ask for it, the seller doesn't know to ask for it, and typically even the buyer doesn't even know to ask for it, but, here's your fee for getting your condo questionnaire answered, it's $200, unless you want it within 2 weeks, and then you gotta pay an extra $50 to get it out of us.
Yeah, I think
It'd
that's,
be great to have
create your own form.
our own form that becomes part of the contract, like an addendum or something to it.
Or at least create your own form for your own file.
Yeah.
Use the GAR forms, because those obviously are the ones written by the attorneys, but how about create that own form for your file, so you can prepare your seller. It's gonna be $250 for this, which it is, for this
Yeah.
silly HOA letter. So Denise, you're about to say something.
Yeah, just the,
But I think it's brilliant.
the
I think it's
legislation, the HOA companies are really abusing people on the fees. And they'll come up with all kinds of erroneous
And they just
stuff.
change the name.
So, I always initially get everybody on an email, seller, so that we're kind of in the loop, because they'll throw things out of left field, different fees, etc. So, I just
You
think
just ask
it's,
the HOA, are there any fees that the seller or buyer has to pay? Please list them in the email. What do you say?
yeah, just, first I have the seller reach out and say, I'm selling my property, I want to be clear, I'm filling out the form, like you said, and verify all the fees. But just as a warning, some of these management companies are terrible.
Horrible.
So you really have to be proactive up front. Unfortunately, I can name some of them that are really bad, but it's
Seaman.
We all know.
you just have to be, you really have to be aware.
Well, and your seller has to be aware. You need
Yeah,
to
your
make
seller.
your seller aware
Yes.
that they do not deal with us very well. They will deal with the homeowner because they have to.
And that's
So-
the thing, the seller
Get
is
the seller on
completely
it.
oblivious to how bad sometimes the management companies are until they go to sell their property, and all of a sudden it's like a mess, so.
Well, and they need to understand that ultimately, and this is a conversation I've started having with every seller at this, when we list, is they need to understand that they are ultimately responsible for what goes into that HOA document. And if there's something left out, then they're gonna be responsible for it at closing, to pay it. So that's dollars out of their pockets that they need to
So-
understand.
If we were to create our own document, I don't know if we could want to attach it to the GAR form, just because I wouldn't know if I want that legal liability. I would like to use GAR, but maybe I like to, because for example, if you have a condo, there's probably an elevator reservation fee.
Yep.
Usually no damage, you
Bond
get it back.
fees, there's all sorts of.
So creating that document and just ask it, do we put it on the GAR form? No, but we can at least put it in an email to somebody saying, from our conversation with the property manager, here's the fees, like elevator fees.
It may be in that brochure. The
And it
GAR
could be-
brochure. I
Yeah.
haven't read that condo one.
And then if we were to get, now there's obviously no guarantees, because you're correct. These management companies are obviously not the greatest. But if we got it here, when it's all about the house, prepping for the house, would it make it easier around this time frame? Least expectations? And then, how about this? You do pay that $250 to get that closing letter from the HOA. When do you, or should you, even get a copy of it? What do we do, Michael?
I mean, before closing, 7 days before closing, just ASAP. I mean,
We start asking for it before we ever get the CD. Because you know how many times those are so wrong?
They're wrong and late.
Or,
Will they
how about
wait?
this? It's like you're closing May 4th, or what is it, May 6th? Like you're closing May 6th. So as diligent as your client is, they made their HOA payment on May 1. But guess when the HOA letter was ordered? April 25th. Which is not bad, because they do need to get this for loan approval, but is it the most up to date? So if I can get it right around this time frame, the HOA closing letter, and guess who I asked this from? Who's one ordering this one usually?
The attorney.
Closing attorney, you're right, because it's about clearing title. So if I can get the HOA letter, which does break in what your elevator fees are, blah, 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 and so forth, and if I can say, well, by the way, you ordered April 25th, I have a very responsible seller, he made his May 1 HOA payment, we have proof of receipt, can we get this updated? I can CC the attorney on it, the client can CC everybody on it, maybe blank check in their account, maybe also talk to the property manager. Obviously they need an official letter so the attorneys can get it. But wouldn't it make, while we're reviewing this, a lot easier? If I can actually have all these fees accurate at that time.
Anytime you can save your seller money, they're excited.
Or just, like, have it accurate, you know? So, like, when they go, what, I paid May, they see the settlement statement and they're being charged a full month of May, like, what, I paid May? You know, because that's their reaction, right?
Always.
Yeah, and they did. I would too, be like, what, they gonna charge me twice for May? You know? So, then you're like, oh, I got it, let's review this before we get to the closing table. That way, at the closing table, we're just having a beautiful conversation about how much you're gonna love living in this home and about, you know, like what do you want to do? Like the neighbors are great. You get just beautiful conversation at closing, which is what you want.
So you
because that does what? Creates a raving fan.
So you should have a conversation with the closing attorney when she's ordering the HOA letter and making sure that they already, like the payment's not near there. What?
So if you know they're going to pay May 1, just tell the closing attorney, hey, by the way, they paid May 1. Can you get an update? You can just ask them. But let's just say closing date May 6th. They probably ordered that HOA letter a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and then just ask the attorney, can you send me a copy of it? They paid for it. The seller has a right to receive the letter. They paid $250 for that letter. Just ask the closing attorney for that closing HOA letter. Does that make sense? Am I answering your question?
Yeah. I'm just for a system in my head is just to make sure that there's. I guess I've only done yearly HOA fees. I haven't done that.
Which they would have the same thing. HOA will have a letter.
Yeah, but I'm
for
saying,
yearly.
but it's usually not that close of like.
That's possible.
The days.
But guess what? What if they have a violation because I've had this happen, that they didn't like the paint color on the back of the house because it wasn't the right shade. And so they have a violation. This isn't a subdivision of a single family home. So they were going to assess them, and you can't clear title when there's a violation from the HOA. So if that's all about title, you need that done. So I would get it from a single family home. Or I had this happen last week where a repair was made to townhome, and it was like part of the wall belongs to the HOA, part of the exterior, they rebuilt the deck. So part of it was HOA responsibility, part of it was homeowner's responsibility. So same contractor completed the whole project, but the bill had to be split by who owns what, who, and so forth. So we saw it on the closing letter, what it was, but obviously we knew about it because we were making a repair. But I would always get the closing HOA letter, like between here.
But sometimes that's out of your control to get it fast. I mean, right? Because the lender's ordering that.
But you should have that for the CD, right?
Right, yeah. Well,
So you should get that at least 3 days prior to closing, right? They should have it at least 3 days, right? And guess what? If you have a good what?
Attorney.
A good what? Attorney?
Closing attorney.
Yeah. All right. So what? Okay, we talked about least stressful. Least stressful. What is most stressful moment in the transaction?
Inspection. Negotiation. Inspection.
Well,
Okay.
inspection /
Oh, you all
Okay,
are
or 16.
you're all just so fibbing, just picking the phone up to get the lead. Or you won't get it.
But if you create raving fan,
I think the rating
if you create a raving fan, not that you should always be picking up the phone, because that's part of maintaining a raving fan. But like, this becomes more pleasant because you have good news to talk to them about. So, but what's the most difficult?
6 and 8.
6 and 8. Transactions and completing the repair. Due diligence and completing the repairs, right? Or special steps, or checking on the repairs. Who else? We said 6 and 8.
The last 3 transactions, my appraisals haven't appraised.
Appraisals. So if we're gonna say 6, 7, 8, what would be, okay, if this, like we said.
Sometimes 4, actually. Getting the house ready. Sometimes
Yeah,
sellers don't
finding
want
the
to
right
listen
house.
about what to do.
Yeah.
So if we were ranking normal, let's talk about not your one weird thing that just happened, not your one like just perfect, they found the one house and she's made an offer on the first day you showed them and it had no repair issues, not these really bad extremes and really great extremes, like our normal. Like what would you say, this, how would you rank? That's the top four?
Six is the number one.
Then 8, I think, then 4.
I would say 5 can be stressful in the seller's market for
Yeah,
buyers,
depends on your buyer.
for the buyer's agent. Under contract, once you're trying to get there, is that?
So
that
5 is
the
under
offer?
contract. Yeah, 5 is under contract.
The stressful part for me with buyers is having them decide which area they want before you're involved.
So that actually is what?
I thought that was,
4 is about the house, like showing them the house. It's about researching it online. It's about if you're working with the buyer.
so I was thinking also just searching, doing the setup of searches for different neighborhoods. The consultation, I don't know if they're having the clarity what neighborhood they want yet.
So how do we find out what neighborhood they want?
They have to
So, I mean,
That price point is gonna help out a lot.
That's true.
Yep.
That's true. That can't be true. All right, let's, my hope is like, I thought that these 6, 7, 8 would probably be the most stressful, challenging part of the transaction. Because let's just say, this can be, you're right, under multiple offer scenario, just get under contract. Some places is challenging. Have you still seen lots of multiple offers, or do you see occasional? What's
I think it's the price point, depends on the price point.
price point?
Yeah.
Occasional? What price point are you seeing multiple offer? Is it area or price point?
Oh, below 2.
I think it's
Below
price point
2
for
is
the area, so value.
And the area.
Sub threes.
Yeah.
Sub threes.
I just put multiple on the 350 though.
Yeah, I did too. But all right, sub 3s for sure. I agree with that. Because you're right.
Anywhere
Three,
sub 3,
yeah.
and then certain areas, 3+.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
For the condition.
Yeah, it's about the value. It doesn't matter really where or what the price is. It's for the value of what you're buying.
Are we seeing, I mean, except for maybe anything on the belt line, any kind of like multiple offers in 5s or 6s or any of that anymore?
There was, well, you said
Done
beside the
moving.
belt. I mean, there was one in Kirkwood that was like in the 7s that had 5 offers. I think.
Yeah. Okay. So that could be. All right. So let's focus on inspections, appraisals, and then completing the repairs. So let's just say, okay, we just go under contract. Obviously, due diligence begins. What's your all's next step? Let's say we're buyers. Let's talk about that first. We're buyers.
Schedule inspection.
Schedule inspection. Okay. So what else do you do besides schedule inspection?
Make sure you get all their information into the lender for to start the underwriting process.
That's absolutely true. Like,
Wait, ask the question again.
You're the working list. You're going to use a buyer scenario. So you're under contract. Due diligence begins today. So you schedule the inspection. What else do you do?
Email the HOA.
To the attorney,
Email HOA.
attorney.
Returning the
Send binding
contracts
Contract.
to attorney, lender, all irrelevant parties. Correct.
Any other vendor,
Any other vendor possibly.
contractor.
Earnest
estimates.
money.
Earnest money. Okay.
Would it be bad to have a conversation? I've done it before and it kind of worked out, but would it be bad to have a conversation with the seller's agent to say, hey, look, we're getting ready to do our inspection. Is there anything that the seller knows is going on with the property that maybe they forgot to put in the seller's property disclosure that we should know about? Because an inspector is going to find something. They always do. That's what they're paid to do. So is it something that maybe we need to know now before my client spends his money on these inspections that maybe we need to hold off and rethink?
Has anyone done that?
well, in a flip, it happened that they weren't ready, they weren't ready for the inspection.
Okay, that would probably be unique scenarios because in a flip, you're probably still in process, and because you do a lot of this, right, Hannah?
I mean, not a lot, but yeah.
That's enough to know. But how do you handle that with the seller? Do you usually let them know, the buyer know, or?
Well, I mean, this one, I told her if it's not ready, then you're paying for the re-inspection.
Okay. Or how about new construction? I had new construction plans that weren't still installed. I mean, you could just obviously delay that. So the disclosure, do you think we can ask the seller to explain further on these disclosure? So, then also, okay, how about we got the due diligence, we ordered the inspection, what else do y'all do? What do you do? What's that?
Important dates, email.
Important dates, correct? Absolutely.
And then set earnest money.
Earnest money, we got, let's say we fulfill contractual obligations of earnest money, important dates, what else?
Are you gonna?
Any kind of conversations or dialogues
Are you
you
gonna-
have?
Well, you gotta talk to them about what the inspection's gonna,
Yeah.
what
happens
I
next?
mean, my usual coach on that is, we're gonna do it, he's gonna tell you what's big and wrong, and then you're gonna get that report that night, open it, look at it, close it, go to bed. We'll talk about it the next day.
Yeah. So, what other dialogues? Because that's exactly right. Like, who do they look to as navigating the ship? Yeah, us. So, what kind of dialogues do we have with our clients?
I like
This
to
is what's
talk
gonna
about it in
happen.
the consultation.
Yeah.
To kind of prepare them.
I always have the conversation that the inspection report is not only to find out what's wrong with the house, but ways that they can maintain the house after they own it. And there's a difference between bumps and bruises and big functional defects.
Right.
And this is not for us to ask, for every single detail, but there are going to be things that you're probably going to end up taking care of yourself, especially if it was a multi-offer situation. We need to err on the side of asking less than we would if it was not multiple offer, because they probably have a backup offer. So bumps and bruises are things you handle yourself. The big ticket functional defects are items that we negotiate for the seller, or we negotiate money in lieu of repairs so that you have control of the repairs.
And do you have that conversation, when do you have that conversation?
Sometimes at the buyer consultation, but if not at the buyer consultation, if I forget, then we have it, right when we're writing a contract, or when we're even showing the house and we talk about making an offer.
Yeah.
But early on.
So do you think it makes transactions go smoother when you have that conversation?
Definitely.
Okay. What else do you do? You're under your buyer. You just went under contract. You just ordered the inspector. Inspector is coming, let's say today's Monday, they're coming on Wednesday. What else do you do?
Make sure they know they
I
need
would
to
definitely
attend.
try to vet who the inspector is as well.
Oh, yay. We got, try to work with some good, preferred vendors, right?
Recommend inspectors, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, recommend helps. And do we pick one for them, or do we maybe say, here's a list of 3?
Here's a list.
Yeah.
I've literally had inspectors twice now that have sent me inspection reports that were 200 and some odd pages.
Oh, wow.
And it's like literally nitpicking at every little thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that he was wrong for sending me such a huge inspection report, because if it's 215 things wrong with this house, of course my buyer needs to know that. However, it literally was things that weren't necessarily wrong, or my buyer didn't care about in the end. But of course, you send 215 pages worth of repairs, she's gonna flip out, and that's exactly what she did. Killed the deal.
Yeah. It freaks them out when you see 200 pages. It would freak me out.
Well, HomePro will send me 60-page ones, but then they'll also send an ATAC tool the next day. And it's we're legally obligated to tell you all the things that are wrong. However, focus on these things.
What else do you do?
About with certain companies that have certain inspectors that work better with first-time home buyers versus second home buyers and third that will sit there and take the time to actually explain stuff versus, no, this is what it is, this is it, I'm out. You have to have the right fit like you do with a lender.
Correct. Yeah. And so over time, you probably learned who you like for whom.
Yeah.
And is that something after class, we can sit there going, as a group, we can sit there going, hey, who's your favorite inspectors and blah, blah, blah. And something that you can kind of share with each other just to get good names if you don't have some, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Lanisha?
Another thing I like to do is send the inspector the seller's property disclosure before the inspection.
Companies should be asking for it.
Some do. Some do. How about you can still work the buyer, or you can be working the seller. What else do you do to prepare for the inspection? Say the inspection's on Wednesday. What else do you do? The CVS code, that's a technicality. Yeah.
I don't know.
You're correct. They will need that. What else? What else? That can make things go, take the stress, stress is already here. We can start to bring the temperature down a little bit.
Make sure all the appliances work.
on.
And they are.
Utilities are on.
Utilities are on, the HVAC works, you've confirmed it works.
Yeah.
So when you work with a seller, do you have a list for them that says preparing for your inspection? And then say, obviously we went under contract, if things are moving super fast, you can even tell them prior to going on the market. But you already have a canned email or a Word document or however you communicate with your client of lists of how to prepare for your inspection. Like, what would you put on that list? You're right, appliances are working.
I tell them, have an HVAC service company, if I'm representing the seller, have an HVAC company come out, do a service, make sure the Freon is full, so at least the thing will work when the guy comes through. Because that is an expensive fiasco when that thing doesn't work in the inspection. You're gonna get dinged for $6,000 on that.
I actually love that. The sellers, we do like to get our HVAC service. If they don't routinely service them, because some sellers are great homeowners and they do every 6 months. Can you possibly leave out the latest service report receipt on the table for the inspector, right? Or get just before you go on the listing, get it serviced if they haven't serviced it in like years. Because you're right, that is such an expensive repair. And it kind of freaks everyone up because, you know, guess what? We're entering May, June, July, August, hottest months, you know. But what else could you do if you could work seller or buyer? Have that list. What else did you put on that list to prepare for the inspection?
For the buyer?
Buyer or seller. You can communicate this if you represent the buyer.
Seller, I try to get everything done before listing.
Yeah.
Whatever I think is gonna pop up on the inspection.
Which would be it's about the house. Like get some repairs done already. Because they're not surprised at the time of the inspection. Oh my gosh, I got like $8,000 worth of repairs. Well, we already did $2,000 worth of repairs. I priced it appropriately. And then therefore there's not a big bill. But how about like simple lists? Like we have on our list of remove personal items away from the electrical panel, the water heater, this furnace and AC. So therefore, like, because you know, everybody hangs a picture of the electrical panel because it's so ugly. But then the inspector's like, I'm not going to touch it. There's a personal picture there. Well, now you wasted my buyer's time for not being able to test. So even if I represent the buyer, I can still send communication to the seller saying, hey, just so we have a successful inspection, would you mind asking your seller just to remove personal items away from water heaters, furnace, ACs, electrical panel, right?
Or if you're representing the buyer and the seller has started to pack their things and they're storing everything in the garage in front of stuff and the inspector can't get to it because most inspectors are not going to be in there moving boxes out of the way to do the inspection.
Too much liability.
Exactly. So if that's the situation, having that same conversation and say, hey, look, my inspector is going to be doing the inspection on whatever day. Can you make sure that he has proper walkways and he gets all the systems in the house?
Yeah. You think you can have like already a pre-written email that says about that? You just tweak it a little bit on stuff. Yeah, Hannah.
One thing I learned is I always have the sellers look in their attic and make sure there's no animal droppings.
Yeah.
And there are vacuum them up.
Yeah.
Because they found like droppings from that could have been 20 years ago. But they say that, oh, you have to encapsulate whatever in your attic because there's conversation. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's $2,000 money.
No, it's not. All right, so we have the inspection. Who tells our buyers to go to the inspection?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, okay, you got the report back. Let's talk about negotiating repairs. Is that stressful?
Yes.
What makes it stressful?
You don't want to go
on the sell side,
overboard.
sometimes they give you like a laundry. I mean, I've never had someone fill out something on the second page of an ATAC before, and I just got one back, and I'm like,
oh,
is this, yeah.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Oh, yeah,
That's
Really?
unusual.
Yeah.
That's unusual.
Oh, I've never had them go to the second page.
Okay, let's say you represented the seller. How do you prepare them for the oncoming amendment to address concerns?
It's inspection. I mean, inspectors have to do some repairs. Inspectors are paid to find repairs necessary, and they're going to find them. Just be prepared for it. We're looking for everything that has everything to do with safety and functionality. If it doesn't have to do with safety and functionality, you can choose to do it or choose not to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the conversation that you have with your buyer or your seller.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I always say the safety.
Thank you.
What else, Dory?
Well, I use the same script that Stephanie was talking about with both buyers and sellers when I'm talking about the inspection. We're hoping that the buyer's agent will direct the buyer to look for the broken bones and not the bumps and bruises. However, they may be looking at everything, and hopefully I'll be able to negotiate for you only the broken bones.
That's great.
And setting the expectation.
And I love analogies where we can take it off of real estate and put an analogy onto a different topic we all can relate to.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Because how many times have buyers put stuff on the inspection report, hoping they put small, insignificant stuff on there, hoping to get the bigger stuff?
Yeah.
It definitely happens.
Andy, and then I have another question, Andy.
So obviously you can prepare your seller for a lot of things. Like I had a transaction that I was representing the buyer, and the seller's house was immaculate. Like the inspection report, there was like 2 little small, tiny little things that need to be done. However, we had a radon test, and it was high, and it was the hardest thing for them to get over because they knew their house was so perfect that they were in denial that they had radon, and it was the hardest uphill battle to get them to remediate or mitigate the radon. And I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, those things like that, it's hard.
Okay,
you
that's
expect
awesome.
them-
You actually lead it well to where I want to go next, which is how do we communicate with the agents and to our clients when it's like, oh my gosh.
With the what? How do we communicate?
Communicate to the other agents or to our clients when like that scenario is a perfect one. Like how did you navigate that?
Well, the other agent, which is not KW, thought she was an expert on radon because she took a class, and I knew exactly when she intervened and kind of tainted the whole process the wrong way, is that she threw out, I'm going to pay $100 to have another radon test done, and I'm going to pay for it and have it and put it in a different room and have it done. And I was like, wait a minute, why is she paying for a radon test, and how does she know about radon? Like, we're agents, we're not expert at radon. So that, and then of course put it in the seller's mind that something's not right, and of course they thought it was all wrong because the agent steered in the wrong direction. So I had to be persistent of the importance of the radon need to be done because they had children, they had mitigation done in a house up in Chicago where they live now, and they know it's important. So that was their hot button. Like, to get the deal done, this needs to happen. And it literally was an all-day process. We went in a complete circle all day long to finally getting the radon done, and it did not cost my buyer. They wanted to renegotiate, take off the refrigerator and the washer and dryer, which is like $6,000 worth of stuff for $800 mitigation. So it's just being persistent and sticking to, this isn't important for my buyer. You know, this is a deal killer, and being persistent with that.
And just out of curiosity, what did it test at?
It tested right about 8 and 8.
Oh, whoa! This isn't 4.1.
Yeah.
I retest 4.1 all day long, but like 8.
Oh yeah, they retested it, and you could see that the meter was going like this, and so they had it right next to an air handler the second time. I'm like, well, look at when it's turned off, it's high. When it's on, it's low. It's like, come on now. And they want to argue that.
Okay, so how do we handle, this is always the touchy part, is like, I think the emotions get involved here, right?
High emotions.
High emotions. How do we handle, like, what kind of dialogues do you all have when, like, am I safe to say emotions get involved during the inspection period? Yeah.
Parents get involved too.
Yeah. How do we?
Do the agent's emotions get involved?
The agent's emotions.
That lady-
You're in Switzerland.
Yeah.
That other agent's emotion was on high level. Like, I literally was like, this lady's about to jump through the phone. I'm like, look, I'm just trying to protect my buyers. That's all I'm doing. Like, we're doing our job. Why are you yelling at me? Because I want them to have the radon test. It's important to them.
Yeah.
So
And listen to how calmly he said that.
Yeah.
Like, he stayed in logic. That was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it basically came down to it. It needs to be done. So.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be the better agent and hold your calm and stick to your guns.
So what's some dialogues with that? Like radon is one of those things that if you
And I
have
said multiple times that I'm not the expert. I go, I don't know anything about, this is what I kept saying, I don't know anything about radon. I've never had to deal with a radon issue. I'm going to refer to the experts and what they say and what they need to do. And she kept wanting to be the expert. I'm like, you're not the expert. Just because you took a class doesn't mean you know everything.
Yeah.
So I had to keep saying, like, every time I don't know anything about radon, but this is what they're saying.
Well, that actually is a great statement. What else can we say to that agent?
Well, just like, this is another intake too, but she mentioned, she's like, you know, rate on something that if you don't take care of for this buyer, if we back out, you're gonna have to take care for another buyer.
You now have to disclose. Right? You now have to disclose. Like mold, radon, a couple of things you now have to disclose. Because it's actually on the disclosure. Once you have knowledge, you have to update that disclosure. So, Erin, you're about to say something?
Well, that was what I was going to say as well. It's like usually I just say, look, if we walk away, you know, the next reasonable buyer is gonna ask for the same exact things.
Yeah.
So,
And that pushes your closing.
we all want the same thing to represent our clients and quotes.
And just get this taken care of.
I think what started it all off was when we went biting, I negotiated a good deal for my buyers, and I felt that the sellers felt like they got beaten up, unfortunately. And then they knew they had a perfect house, and I beat them up on price, and then I had to beat them up with getting the radon done, because that's what my client wanted, and I had to represent my client.
Absolutely. Guess who you represent? Your client. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like in multiple offer situations too, when a buyer has paid more than like the list price or significantly higher, they think that it's like almost like, well, because we paid so much higher, they like feel like they can ask for these repairs. But I've learned that you have to set the expectations that, well, okay, a lot of the time if there's multiple offers, it's probably a backup offer. So if it's not us, there's 5 other people in line.
Yep. Does anyone talk prior to the amendment to address concerns? So let's just say I'm representing the buyer, and I did get that 200-page inspection report, and I've been reasonable expectations, like Stephanie said, before I ever had the inspection report. I told my buyer that, you know, we look for major safety, major problems, hazardous problems, structural concern, and things like that. We don't nitpick, and they're like, yes, they're in agreement, but we still got that. But the report is actually quite large. Like, is there a way maybe we can soften that before I send this 3-page amendment to address concerns? These are.
I do a lot of, like, I guess, consultation before the inspection, and it can sometimes be brief, but with the buyer, you know, talk about radon, talk about mold, talk about the inspection and what to expect. And, you know, I always kind of make light of it that, you know, it might be 40 pages long.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're going to find a doorknob that's crooked or whatever, you know, little stuff. But then talk about the big stuff and, you know, try to, I mean, for me, it's like no big deal. Of course, if you've been in the business, you've seen everything.
And if
There's
home,
no reason to lose, you know, a great house over even mold or radon.
Which just goes back to motivation. So if you got their great motivation during their consultation, what they wanted, it's a great house. Like, you know, Michael had one where it was the house they wanted, the neighbor were talking about the lease and stuff, and then, yeah, it did show some mold. But we worked through it because it's what everything else, and we can resolve that issue. You know, we live in Georgia where everything has mold. I mean, that's just but is there something we can do as agents to help, like, deliver or soften what could look like it's about to be a bomb?
Yeah, I think I'll take a lot of times. I'll send it to the report and like I'll put an image together, go through it with my buyer, like go through what she wants, and then either originally send it before I even do that, send it to my handyman.
Yes,
and break it down and say, okay, let's go through this, or here are the things she wants. And and the big thing is, I mean, I know a lot of people want, like, especially if it's a multiple offer situation, if they're above list price, whatever, like what I just went through, we broke it down and saw what the big things were, the big ticket items and things that needed to be done versus like you said, you know, a bump here, a bruise here, a doorknob, you know.
Like I always use, like, actually, you know, there'd be some missing caulk here and there, like use stuff that people would know.
I actually had a home buyer, like they had a previous leak, they replaced the roof, but they didn't, on cosmetic level, fix one of the places that they had damaged. And the agent wrote back and said, that's cosmetic, we're not taking care of it. I mean, luckily her ex-partner, he does handyman work and stuff like that, or he's a contractor, he could come up and fix it, but like any other buyer I've been in line, I would have fought back. She's like, no, I don't care.
So sending it to maybe a contractor a little bit to get further explanation, or talk to the inspector to get further explanation, or put it in perspective. Because you're right, if it's a first-time buyer or certain maybe C personality types, like a bad outlet is now $400, which we all know I could go buy one at $5 at Home Depot myself and probably watch YouTube and know how to install it, right? But in their mind, it's like everything's $400.
Yeah, cut it down again and get it down to this number.
Yeah, like they always, obviously, you know, buyers inflate every dollar amount for a repair, you know, and sometimes it's out of just fear and ignorance and nervous anxiety. It's not out of ill will. Some of it may be, but most of it I think is out of like not knowing. So I don't assume that my buyers have ill will just because they inflate a price. But Andy, you're about to say something else. How do we soften this? too?
So I always have the script with them as that we're going to do the inspection, we're going to get the inspection report. It's going to be a long list, it's going to be 50 pages plus. I go, most of that is all documentation for the inspector. I go, what we're looking for is the summary page, which is going to have your major concerns, and we'll analyze them, the major concerns, and then we'll come up together what we're going to address with the seller. And that's the script that I have with
That's
them.
beautiful. Yeah. Or how about, this is your, kind of like your resource guide. So for your own home, because it's going to tell you about your type of water heaters, your type of AC unit, your type of furnace. So this is good info to, keep. So when they go, what's a 50-gallon water heater? Just
Well, they talk about the furnace and, okay, you should be changing your filter 2 times
just
a year.
some maintenance
In the report,
tips,
it's
like
a manual.
like we like to prepare all of our buyers to say, follow the inspector. Ask them about maintenance tips. Ask them how to make this the best home for the lifetime they want to own this home. So, how about like dialogue to the agent before you send over that 4-page memo to address concerns? Katie?
So after the inspection, most of the time, just to keep a good rapport with them so that when I ask for stuff later on, like they are helpful. I'm like, hey, thanks so much for letting us get in for the inspection. Went really well. We're anticipating some stuff coming back about A, B, and C. Can you, prep your seller and see, would it be more helpful to ask for repairs to be done beforehand or ask for closing costs? And a lot of times that helps them, one, it makes them nervous and start to be like, okay, well, they're gonna ask for stuff, let me prep the seller. And then C, if the seller may want us to ask for things to be done beforehand or ask for closing costs.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really great.
Kelly, what do? Do you call, if you're representing a seller, do you call the buyer's agent and say, how did it go? What's your thoughts on that? Does that make you look, I'm kind of torn as a seller's agent.
Yeah.
Does that make me look like I'm expecting something to be wrong, and then I wouldn't want you to say, oh, it was great, and then you get 4 pages of ATAC.
Yeah.
And your seller's like, what in the world's going on with this?
That's actually a great question, and we'll get other people to participate in this. What I do is I honestly also base it on my client's personality. So I have some very nervous sellers that you hear me talk about open houses, it's like it's 5:05 and your seller's already asking for feedback on the open house. So the inspection ends Wednesday at 3 o'clock, so 3:05 I'm getting, how'd it go? So, and so guess what I actually do? I let my sellers know that the buyer will inspect today from June till 3, so please be out of the home during the entire times, have everything cleared out, windows are open, light bulbs are on. That's part of my list, because of course they're going to say dysfunctional fixture when it's just a burnt light bulb. Because it's the bathroom one that had 10 light bulbs, but only one. Yeah, they're going to say dysfunctional fixture. But that being said, so I let them know, set the expectation, don't return until well after 3 p.m. And then, by the way, the buyer probably won't get the report until tomorrow morning. Let's say Thursday morning. They're going to need a day or two to review it with their agent. It may be Saturday, Sunday, possibly Monday before we hear anything, which hopefully I hear it by Thursday or Friday. I can then dialogue with the agent afterwards, because I know my client at 3, even though I gave them that script, 3:05 is already how to go. So sometimes I just go and say, hey, I may just call the buyer's agent. But when does your relationship start with that other agent, buyer's agent or listing agent? When does that actually start?
When you show the home.
That's true. When you show the home, possibly, or allow a showing. But let's just say we all did everything through showing time and we've never talked to these agents.
Certainly with the contract.
Yeah, when you're about to make an offer.
It's how you made
Before you even make the offer.
It's how you made the offer or received the offer. Were you nice? Were you kind of
Especially in a multi-offer situation, I start very early with the report.
I mean, you can be confident and still protect your client and represent your client well, and you can still push back and you can still do it to go and, thank you so much for the offer. We appreciate it. It looks like it's probably a low offer, but, I'll talk to my sellers. Is there a reason that you brought this? What was the logic? What was the reason for this offer? It appears quite low to me. I can dialogue with the buyer's agent about that. Can you explain to me where they're coming from? And blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, this is where we came from, but this is my seller's decision. Let me talk with my seller. Obviously, I'll present this offer. So I can dialogue there. And if they're going, well, this, and it's going, that usually tells me how the relationship's going to go the whole time. Mm-hmm. But if they say to me, Kelly, because this is when my own clients want to make low offers, I'll be like, I know this looks like a low offer, but we want to work this out. Can we dialogue throughout this process to get this right? You know, you can just, like, because you know it's not going to sell that. Like, you can, if you can soften something, or you can still be firm. And then same thing, if I know the amendment, so to Drew's question, do I ask the buyer's agent? I would probably say 80% of the time, I probably 70 to 80% of the time, because I think 70 to 80% of my time, my own sellers at 305 want to know how the report go, how the inspection go. So I may just say, hey, don't send a report, can you just give me some bullet point highlights? That is, you know, they may say, well, it was pretty good, or just, I may just keep it generic. Give me some overall impressions. And just say, you know, it was pretty good. The only thing is, you know, like, there was a small leak in the kitchen and a couple other little plumbing items, but overall, a great report. And then I can calm my seller's concerns by saying, overall, pretty good. They said, this is what the buyer's agent said, pretty good, maybe a couple leaks. We'll probably have a small things to handle. I would just be prepared, you know, but I would say 78%. I did have a multiple offer scenario. I got 5 offers and I don't ask them. Usually not. Probably like 9% of the time. All right, so how else can we talk to agents? You think that makes a difference if approached?
If you're gonna put an offer in, I always call and ask what's important to the seller, because it's not always money. A lot of times it's a combination of the time. So we won a multiple offer. We were tied money-wise and some other terms-wise with someone else, but we could close like 2 weeks earlier than the other one, and the couple wanted to be out.
Yeah.
And just done.
Well, I think the same way you have a conversation at writing an offer, it's with the agent. It's kind of the same thing with if your buyer's asking for like 50 million things on ATAC. You can just call them and prepare them, and I think because like with buyers, I always have the conversation. Well, the strategy is, like Dory was saying, to ask for, you know, the big ticket items, because in the end, you know, you really want more money in your pocket and you want the big stuff fixed. So let's focus on the big things.
So do you all have buyers that say, well, I need to write something because they got to negotiate and cross something off, right? Buyers say, on the amendment to address concerns, but I need to put a few things so the seller, because the seller's going to cross something off. Do you want to have buyers that say stuff like that?
Yeah. They do.
Sometimes,
yeah. But I mean, you just tell them like, hey.
So if you can persuade your buyer that it's better just to state what you want, and then it's more likely you get what you want, which who's found that to be true usually? You kind of, yeah. But if they're like, you can't convince them differently, do you think you can present the amendment to address concerns, saying, I know the list seems a little long, but here are the most important ones, and go ahead and guide that listing agent as to what to agree to do or what to cross off?
I always do a prioritize list.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so that's what I was saying with the same conversation, like the offer, it's like the same conversation with the amendment, because like the listing agent's going to get that and be like, what the heck?
Yeah. And you're still doing your clients a great service because you're getting what the buyer wants, major, done. Same as the seller, they don't know what you want, at least help them focus. And then you are meeting their needs. The buyer's getting the home they want to buy, the seller's getting the home, or get to sell the house they need to sell. And so you're still representing them well. All right, real life. Anybody have some real life stuff going on that we can talk through? Appraisals, real quick. Let me just touch on that real quick. Low appraisals. Who meets the appraiser out there with comps?
I thought we had to leave them. Can we meet the appraiser?
I put it on that. Put a packet.
Okay.
What do you put in your packet, Drew?
I conveniently leave the lockbox.
I put as many things that are going to help me as I can.
Absolutely.
But I look for at least 3 or 4 comps that are the best comps that I can pull, and a little note on them that talks about why, you know, what makes that property special or not so special.
Right.
And then my tax record, and then my subject property, and then if there's a good pending in there, that might help. And then towards the back, I'll put old ones. You know, if it's more than 6 months old, if I'm just not coming up with enough. So if I can put a half dozen things in that packet, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. Who else puts together a packet?
If it's multiple,
go ahead.
If it's multiple offers, I put in there the first page of all of them that we got, because there were like 4 that were list or higher to show, because I was really nervous about one of mine. when it got to be. a
Or
little
do you
higher.
act like, because I get multiple offers, I tell the appraisers I have 5 offers. And then I sometimes ask them, do you want a copy of them or do you not? Because obviously usually the one I just signed on is the best offer.
Sure.
And sometimes I had a 30,000 swing on my multiple offer. And then I want them to see the.
Oh, no, I said not all of them.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
ones that were.
But I just
above.
say, but if you want a copy of it, most of them are like, no, I believe you. It's fine. I don't need all 5, you know. But-
Will they address, have you found that they're willing to look at other offers?
I have talked to very few. If it's my listing, typically they're like, hey, appraisal's happening this day. And I'm like, cool, you let them know that I'm leaving this, and this on the table. I don't know that I've actually talked to most of them.
I mean, but with other offers.
Oh, was that?
Because I've had conversations with appraisers and told them, well, I could sit there and entertain higher offers all day long.
Right.
And we don't care. You know?
Right, you got the one you wanted. Your buyer side, or your seller satisfied. Yeah, Lisa's an appraiser.
I'm an appraiser, and I will say that I did an appraisal just a couple of weeks ago where the contract price was well above the list price, well above. Well, a lender's going to question that. So I had a conversation with the listing agent, and sure enough, there had been multiple offers, all above list, blah, 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 blah. I can use that in my appraisal to justify why
The market
that
was
price is
So just take the top
appropriate.
page of each of those.
And in this case, I didn't get that from him. I just had went.
She's a good appraiser.
by conversation,
Yeah.
and he told me what the offers were, and I went by that. If the lender had come back to me and said they wanted proof of some of that, I mean, I would have gone back to him. And so if he wanted to send it to me, that's fine.
Yeah.
But that information helps me be able to support the value, because at this time of year, it's better right now, but like March, April is a really hard time
To
appraise.
You're right.
Because prices are going up, but we have to use
Winter
closed
comps.
sales.
Winter
And
comps.
So if the closed sales are not yet higher, it can be hard. So we need to know that there are multiple offers, and
So-
that we're all 5,000 or more above list price.
How often do you talk to the listing agents? Because I don't
Always.
Really? Interesting.
And I'll tell you part of my reason, that I'll get an order in and it'll say the contact person for that, and it'll almost always give me the buyer's agent. I ignore that and I call the listing agent, because the listing agent is the one who can get me into the house.
I really had a
have a relationship with the owners, if the owners are still living there and we need to make an appointment.
Sure.
If it's vacant, they're the one that knows if they've taken away the lockbox or if it's still there.
Sure.
They're the one that has the information like Drew's talking about, the multiple offers. So I talk to the listing agent.
So should I be reaching out to all these appraisers?
So, hold on 1 second. Lisa's a great appraiser. That is obvious just listening to her. So, but if you just get an appraiser, you don't know who you're getting. I hope I get Lisa somehow. She's going to be great.
Yeah.
But if I just get this random
I
appraiser.
wouldn't accept an offer that you.
Oh yeah, it'd be a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
That's true. Conflict of interest.
Sorry about that.
I'll take that off.
She was like, I wouldn't.
That's right. That'd be conflict of interest.
Anyone's listing in this office.
But let's just say you get this random appraiser and you don't know. Like, what if you're the buyer's agent? What would you do? Like,
If what?
if you're the buyer's agent and you got this appraisal, like what could you do to help, there's a reason why your buyer made this offer. Hopefully you read comps before you made this offer. So you should be able to support some value of your offer. So what would you do if you're the buyer's agent?
If what? If the appraisal goes low, what do you?
Or even before the appraiser comes out?
Call and tell them the reasoning behind your offer, and if you knew it was a multiple offer situation, and
You could. What
Also
else?
speaking with the lender and him.
Okay,
He's
go
the
with
one
that.
who orders the appraisal.
So you could actually have the lender, who's the one who orders it, say, can you put me, the buyer's agent, as a contact? Because Lisa is actually, I think you're more diligent than most of them. I think a lot of appraisers just go, who's my contact? I call it. They don't even look. They just see a number, name, number, and they call that. So if you can talk to your loan officer, say, hey, can you put me, especially if it's a tricky one to appraise, and that way they call you, you will easily call the listing agent and try to get in. And then you can say, hey, by the way, listing agent, I have some comps. Do you want us to work together on something? I had this one. There's a renovation in an area of town that was just now starting to see a lot of flips. So my buyers knew we're buying on the high side of the neighborhood, but they knew 5 years from now they're going to be in the middle because everybody's renovating. So we got together, Lesson Agent and I, we had some great list of comps. And then, but if I was the buyer's agent, I would ask my loan officer, always put me as contact. Unless I know it's going to price. If it's like, I can like fall asleep and not even worry, then I may not. But how about like these lists in the packet of like special features, and appraisals really like to have dates. Is that correct? Like if I replace a roof in 2017.
Usually make that list, the upgrade list, and
Yeah.
leave it in there also, like whatever we've done in the past 5 years or 3 years, and just put it in the packet.
Yeah.
And those lists are helpful because if I'm then trying to compare with something else that's also been updated, but I don't know for sure what's been done or when, it does help me to know that the roof and the HVAC are all new within the last 2 years.
Right.
That is useful information, and I can then determine that, okay, I was looking between 495 and 500 or whatever, but now all this stuff is new, so I'm gonna push it to the higher
500.
side, not to
Yeah.
the lower side.
Even if it's in the last 5 years, or if it's like,
Yeah.
or if they changed the tile floor, that used to be, like old little square yellow tiles to now it's like the beautiful gray tile, like you can just say update, you can just point all that out. It collects, the collection of it can help you justify the 5K up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Steven.
Some time ago, I was helping somebody do a refi. I was familiar with everything. And the appraisal came in 100,000 low. Not 50,000, not $10, 100,000. I called up D.S. Murphy and they said, you're screwed. He said, the only thing you got to do, or can do, is go out and go to another loan officer, another lending company, and start all over again.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
We got the 100,000 back.
Yeah.
But we had to do it twice. So
Yeah.
any thoughts on how to deal with those kind of big problems?
And is this luxury? Was this a luxury property? Or to have 100K claim seems like it has to be a luxury property.
They're tearing the houses down at $800,000 a pop and building $2.5 million houses there.
Okay.
That might be.
So question on how do you deal with $100,000 swing when it's like $800,000 house to the neighborhood which is a 2.2 new construction, or 2 million.
Yeah, and I didn't hear the first part of what he was talking about, but to counter an appraisal.
Yes.
You need to know two things. One, in this case it wouldn't be, but if it's FHA, that appraisal stays with the house. So you can switch lenders and it doesn't matter. That appraisal
Same
stays
with VA,
with
right?
the house. And VA as well, I believe. I'm not a
Yeah, I
VA
think so
appraiser,
too.
but I think so too. If it's not FHA or VA, so it's conventional or whatever kind of a loan, and you want to counter an appraisal that you think is incorrect, your best way is with comps. You can go in saying you think the appraiser didn't do this right, or this adjustment is wrong, or whatever, but the best way is with comps that they can that you feel are better, more appropriate, and that can justify the price you're looking at. But then those will go to the lender. The lender will decide whether or not to send those to the appraiser. They may or may not. If they do, the appraiser will be required to respond to whatever, and they might change the value, or they might say why those comps are not, they don't feel those comps are as good. So they're not required to change the value, but they're required to respond back to the lender.
And do you think when you have to go through a rebuttal with the appraiser, like, because occasionally I've had to do that too, like how inclined do you feel appraisers are to change their value?
I will say there are several things that could factor into that. One, and I try not to let this affect me, but let's be real. How you've treated the appraiser up till that point in time.
Yes.
If you've treated them like crap up till that point, they have no incentive to want to be helpful to you.
Correct.
So truly, that's right. My appraisers are people too. I mean, you don't like it. If you're accepting multiple offers, the agent that treated you badly is not the offer that you're gonna push to your client either. You don't want that. So truly, that's an issue. The next thing is really how good the comps and stuff are that somebody tries to send to me. Because I've had people that, you know, they want a value, they want something to close, they send me something that's miles away and nowhere close to being something I would consider as being comparable to this property. So be realistic. But on the other hand, one of the things that's really tough for appraisers is off-market sales.
Yes, that's why you should listen
So
out
I'm
more.
telling you what, if you don't put stuff in FMLS or Georgia MLS, one or the other, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
So if you know of things like that in a neighborhood, providing those real transactions, it can be really helpful, and I would change a value.
Yeah.
To your original question, I would change a value.
Because there are some neighborhoods that do a lot, like you can go in town, Inman Park, boom, they sell all the time, never going on the market.
Yeah.
Neighbors like sell to each other all the time.
And so
You know?
that's another thing as well, that I had one years ago in historic town, Brookhaven down the road, that the agent met me at the house and gave me whatever, but one of the comps that she talked to me about was one that had sold off market, but the buyer had used an agent. So this agent knew the other agent, so I could call that agent and I could find out condition of the interior and stuff like that that I don't have, because if it's off market, I don't have interior photos. So I could get information and I could use that as a comp.
Yeah, that's really helpful. How about this? Do you think if like people like to ask for closing costs, so let's just say, simple math, I want 5K in closing costs, so I ask instead of 200 and 0K in closing costs, I have 205 and 5K in closing costs, but that 200 already is pushing the price. Like how can we solve that problem? Because now it doesn't appraise at 205 because we asked too much, because it was barely appraised at 200. Like what's another solution so we don't blow up the deal?
For the buyer to seller. I mean, the buyer.
Both can problem solve. At this point, both people should be problem solving.
I represent the seller, I already know, I'm already aware of that, of it possibly not appraised, so I put a special slip in the contract to protect the seller in the event that it doesn't appraise, so they're not still on the hook for giving them that closing.
But then if the buyer doesn't have the money, they don't have the money. But you could just not, I just did this, I mean, we pushed price point as well, we just didn't accept closing costs, period. Like we just did, we're in a contract. But what else could you do? What else?
What else you could do for
How about lender pay closing costs?
Yeah.
How about talk to the loan officer and say, hey, can we just restructure this loan a little bit and get some lender pay? It won't be 5,000, but maybe another 2 to 3, and then they can we work out some financial situations? So maybe if it did appraise at 200 instead of 205, that at least, it could, the transaction would still work out.
Another option is just see if, give them, you might have to give them some more time to go make changes to their loan package, but instead of an 80% loan, maybe do a 90% loan and have a little bit more cash to come in and make up the difference.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
they really want the house.
Yeah, can we think of some of the solutions there? Yeah.
And just give them time to close.
Yeah. I know we're past time. So any pressing matter, and y'all can go whatever. Pressing matter, you're like, I need to have someone help me solve this problem now before you go. Yes, Q.
I don't have any pressing matters, but I would love maybe if you could send an email out, because a lot of people have left already.
Yeah.
Of recommendations for good inspectors, for first-time homeowners, for new construction, for older homes. Just some of those ones you've had good reports with for those particular types of.
How do you feel about inspect all since they do the radon test now, included in their inspections?
We use inspect all. It's a client. Obviously, client gets to decide. Because radon does cost a little more. And usually, we never tell our clients don't do radon. Like I don't ever want that liability of saying don't do radon, and then they find high radon, and our job is just to inform them and let them make the decision.
Right.
So I never say don't do. If they're really concerned about it, I say if you're concerned, let's do it then. It's their $300 or $400, whatever it costs.
Yeah.
So. But Q, to your question, so I actually think what'll be great is, we could probably, if somebody wants just to, you'll see everybody on the e-vide and not everybody, replies yes or not. But that could just be a good old mass email. Just say, hey, do you mind sharing? Like, who do you like for these? And this is where it's great. Y'all can like start saying, hey, this person's great for this, and this person's great for that, and share ideas with each other on that. Yeah,
One quick question.
Absolutely.
Do you send out, I'm always torn about this. Should you possibly scare your buyer to death and give them a list of all the possible types of inspections they can do? Or do you just wait and let your home inspector pretty much guide them from that point and say, well, the more common ones are mold and radon? But I always thought there's some liability there if you're actually suggesting. So do you give a list of what they can?
Like, I haven't had anyone do like a sewer line or anything, which may not be a bad idea, but I probably would ask my clients, is there anything you feel most concerned about before going
I do that, but I just wondered, are we under some obligation to, let's say we don't talk about the sewer line, and the inspector doesn't mention it, and then they move in and they've got a clay pipe that breaks, and we haven't said anything. I just always wondered if maybe I should be giving them a list of all the potential inspections.
That's a good question. Because even if you did,
because they might not think of it.
They may not think of it, and then of course, guess who was blamed? Yeah, we get blamed for everything.
Well, I mean, and I would just hate to see that happen to my client too, as well. I mean,
yeah, you wouldn't want that to happen.
But is that a good idea or not? Because then you might forget something. I might not have something on my list.
Well, if you had a list, I would not just hand something without explanation. Because if this is in a Alpharetta subdivision, you know, like you could say you could always get a sewer line, but we're dealing with PVC pipe, and we're not dealing with, you know, clay or even cast irons, you know. So it could be like if we're in an older neighborhood, I may say, given that, like I tell my clients all the time, like if I'm near like Cobb, Cherokee, Stone Mountain, things like that, we're doing radon because of being close to granite and the mountains and all that. But is it a good idea to put a list? Probably is not.
It also makes them nervous too. They go,
yeah. I mean, because you don't have to do like we're not doing soil tests, much stuff like that. And just, you could always say relevant to your home is probably more of these. You know, you're welcome to do whatever you feel makes you comfortable.
Okay.
Or if you do your inspections early enough, it's possible that the general home inspector may recommend additional inspections.
Right. Well, I always kind of let it be the home inspector's, his direction. But I just wondered if we should be sending like a letter, a list of the possible ones. I don't know. It's just a lot of people don't think of those things.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Do you have a clay pipe situation in the past, or?
Well, I mean, I've got some people now who bought from me last year who are now having to probably connect to sewer because the septic fields aren't working.
Oh, I always do septic inspection.
But there was one. The owners had done one, and they had just done it, but still, probably should have had them come back out and look at it again. But they provided they had just done it that month with the people who did their routine inspections.
To get that septic clearance letter. Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, that maybe it's an insurance claim that. And septic can be covered by insurance, hopefully. Yeah. Maybe they won't pay for the total cost of connecting the city, but like if septic's break, that can be an insurance claim.
Well, yeah, the problem is that they can't get the fields as large as it's really not the septic tank, it's the field lines. And they don't have the room anymore from when they were put in because of the trees and the roots.
Yeah.
So apparently, I don't know. Anyway, it's just, there's so much to worry about with your clients.
There is.
Anyway, that was just my question.
Yeah. I don't think it's bad. I mean, septic, I think it's always asked, but it's probably not a bad idea to say possible inspections, and you can put it in the packet that's with the one that says how to protect yourself from buying a home kind of deal, and then, let them know it's available and they get to decide.
Any good information you can provide.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So helpful, not helpful? Hopefully
it was great today.
Good.
Thank